go offline and learn Longsword. It's an idea that I came up while being on a walk with my dog. And I thought about it deeply, that if I'm not going to align my life to this, let's say, saying, then I will just come back to my old bad habits, such as gaming. Did you know that the average person today grabs their phone 2000 times a day, including you? Meanwhile, there are people who are quietly training 700-year-old martial art that requires absolute focus, physical strength, and just knowledge, right? And real courage. So one of these activities nourishes your mind, trains your body, gives you strength, gives you courage, and the other one makes you forget who you are. If you don't know me, hi, I'm Michael Kozint, and I've been training Longsword for more than 2 years in historical European martial arts. And right now I'm helping newer guys to start their own sword fighting journey, specifically with Longsword because it's just my favorite weapon, at least for now. Of course, instead of just watching sword content on YouTube. So it's very important for me to actually talk about this topic. I thought about it deeply. Like, you have to believe me. If people today don't acknowledge this, if they are not aware of this problem, then they will just come back to these old habits, just like I said. So let's start with the first point, which is the digital cage. So let me open up with something that you already know, which is that our modern life right now is completely online. Most people today spend more than 10 hours a day in front of the screens, in front of the monitors, spending their precious time on this earth working on a monitor and watching entertainment on a monitor and socializing through a monitor. It's so abstract to me. It's also very bizarre to me that today it's seen as something normal. And I've been in this trap before. And from time to time, I still do. I still come back to this, right? Because it's just so easy to slip into this pit of being entirely online instead of being entirely offline. You're not just doing things anymore. You're interacting with the general idea of things, of hobbies on the screen, on the internet. You're interacting with the representation of things rather than just doing it yourself. For example, me lately, instead of actually me painting my Warhammer minis, instead of that, I consumed a lot of content on YouTube about the Warhammer lore, about the figures, about the competitive scene and somewhat. But but I still like the idea of Warhammer, right? Don't get me wrong. But I don't know, just so easy to slip into consuming like the representation of what I'd like to do instead of actually doing it step by step, bit by bit. Because you know what? It's so easy to just grab your phone 2000 times a day and just watch stuff on it instead of just actually turning it off completely. Yes, turning it off completely, leaving it to the side, inside of your room or I don't know, wherever. Just forgetting about your phone at least for half a day, at least. And I mean it. And just doing real stuff that's in front of you. Can you just see my smile from ear to ear? Because when I think of it, it's so freeing. It's so freeing because you don't need to see all this stuff online. You can actually do it yourself. And that's what I mean inside of each of my videos on this channel. That's why today it creates a very strange phenomenon, which is, I also noticed that people feel very, very busy, but they're really not. So if you're entirely online, then you're just a spectator in your own life. You're joining the biggest spectator team on earth, which is internet, instead of actually living your life on this earth. My next point, which I already tackled, is the illusion of participation in online media. When you read about stuff, when you watch content about stuff, let's say, like I said, for me it's Warhammer, right, or HEMA, instead of doing that my own way, I'm prone, as you are, to actually watching it on YouTube, on the internet, on Instagram, on TikTok, whatever. And it creates a very abstract thing, such as we want to take part, we want to participate in those things, but we are really not. We are just arguing with just random people online. As I think of it, it's so funny to me because I know guys who spend their free time on arguing with people, with old geezers on Facebook, on the comments, or my peers, yes, peers, but the opposite sex, so girls, they scroll their life away on TikTok. I heard the study or something that said that TikTok is mostly populated by females, by girls. And so it's just so abstract to me. It would be so much easier to just leave it. So what I mean is that you just have to stop thinking that you're taking part in something important or you need to know something important on the media. Let's say the recent war. No, you don't really need to know it. It doesn't change much surrounding you. Maybe in the long term, yes, maybe that. But let's just be ignorant for a second. Let's just be arrogant for a second. And let's just forget all of this stuff that isn't in our surroundings. Just focus on yourself. That's the real participation that you can do. So a participation in your life is so much rewarding, so much fulfilling because you're actually creating something real out of yourself. So let's say training longsword, or I don't know, rock climbing, or painting minis. So actually doing some sorts of character creation. Point number 3 is what happens when you actually go offline. So in my case, when I stumbled upon longsword practice, so specifically hema, my first thought was, oh shit, there are actual people who do this stuff. Because I didn't know back in the day that there were actual like practitioners of swordsmanship with longswords. Of course, we know of the Olympic fencing, so modern or classic fencing. You can like name it whatever, but we know what I'm talking about. It's not really a fight per se. Like it's not really based in reality. Of course, they have perfect footwork. Don't get me wrong. They have the best footwork on earth. But like the system of hitting the points and winning, like it's a bit fake in my opinion. But I'm not talking about that at least for now. So hema, when I discovered it, I wanted to do it, and I made so much mistakes being just a beginner, just being a newcomer, because I didn't know stuff. I knew shit. So basically I was jumping around between different advice on YouTube, and I didn't really know what were the foundation, so the basics and the advanced stuff. I didn't see the clear line between the first one and the second one. So the second one, the advanced stuff, it's nothing more than just the extension to the basics. But the basics, like it's the most important brick in sorts in this swordsmanship training. So what I'm getting to, when I started to do it for the first time, I did some kind of movement. It felt awesome. And so I tried to progress it further. I started to go to my first sparring sessions, to my first group trainings, right? The moment when I felt enemy's longsword coming to me, I felt like reality is getting heavier at that specific time. It's getting heavier. I need to focus right now, because if I don't, I will lose. I will just get hit. Or I will just double my opponent, which isn't ideal also, right? And so afterwards, the baseline of like this feeling that I said, right? It got so light. Like it was so freeing to me to feel like I'm really alive. Of course, at the moment of fighting, you have to focus. It feels heavy, and it should feel heavy. That's the whole point. But afterwards, just right after the fight, you feel like you've did something. You've achieved something with your own hands, by yourself, knowing that you've lived all of your life up to this point and you've learned something cool, something great, like swordsmanship with longsword. It could be saber, perhaps. Maybe you're a saber fan, or maybe you're rapier with dagger fan, or you like sword and buckler. Doesn't really matter. If you do it, if you like to do it, right, then you naturally would want to get better at it, right? You'd want to progress. And this progress is what keeps this fire burning, instead of just being online, scrolling your life away, or playing a swordsman character, let's say Warden from For Honor, for 3 hours a day. You know how much time you're just losing because of it. You're not really actually enjoying these things. Like, you have to be honest, right? So in fighting, in real fighting, right? In real swordsmanship, there's no distractions, there's no notifications, there's no algorithm controlling your thoughts. There is no scrolling. This is where everything that matters is just your presence and just your skill. And these two words, presence and skill, you should remember, they should become one of the most often used in your vocabulary, and that's quite important, believe me. My next point is ancient reality versus modern comfort. So we all know that our modern life is somewhat more comfortable. Like for an average guy, for an average girl, our life became so much easier, so much comfortable in a way, right? But the system is still prone to get advantage over us, like always, right? But at least we get discomfort. And that's why it's very easy to forget who we are, because we let ourselves be controlled. Even in our leisure time, in our free time, we are being controlled by algorithms. We are being controlled by notifications. We are being controlled by abstract online things that actually don't matter in your surrounding. Like, okay, you may get an important notification about your work in your leisure time. I understand that sometimes you get like these notifications, but you know what? You know what I did? I turned all of my notifications on my phone. I don't have tap to wake on my phone when I grab my phone. You know what actually I did to combat? I just turned all of my notifications on all of my apps inside of my phone and also on my computer, on my laptop. Because I can't stand being spammed with notifications, then don't change anything in my life. Like, okay, I will get to reply to my close ones, okay, when I'm free, right? But when I try to work, like here, like right now, when I'm speaking to someone in my surrounding, it's more important than replying right away to someone through the social media. The most funny thing to me is that you may think, you, all of you, yes, I'm speaking directly to you, you may think that it's at least 50% of these notifications are important to you, or 50% of the content surrounding your hobbies, surrounding your interests will help you out. No, my point is that they will not, because they are just a distraction from the actual thing that you're supposed to do that's in front of you, not on a screen, not on a monitor. It's in front of you. You just have to grab it and do it step by step. And the best thing which helped me out along the way while learning Longsword wasn't like, yes, I had, let's say, a North Star goal to become a perfect swordsman, a perfect duelist with Longsword, right? A perfect Longsword fencer. But the better mindset trick to approach your hobbies, to approach your leisure time activities, so nothing that surrounds your work, is to focus just on what's in front of you, not on the bigger picture, but just the step that's in front of you. For me to grab my longsword and train it for 10 minutes, the first thing that I need to do is to stand up from my desk. Then the second thing would be naturally grabbing my longsword. The second thing would be changing my clothes, something more sports, like to a sportswear, right? Then the next point would be going outside. The next point would be figuring out what I'm going to do right now. So let's say footwork and cuts, right? So that's what I do. Fencing, steps, and then cuts. Of course, for 10 minutes straight, right? Not jumping around between two of these things or adding on more things. No, that's how you progress through things. So coming back to the historical context, for centuries, martial arts, martial combat, martial skill was part of life. So an example would be chivalrous knights of medieval times, or samurai who trained their martial skill and followed Bushido code, and many other warrior cultures, such as Aztecs, and many more, right, of course. And these concrete disciplines developed martial honor. They developed courage, developed strength, developed also presence. They were developing also their mindfulness, right? Because you have to be aware of how to actually fight and train. And our modern life is optimized for the quite opposite. It optimizes for comfort. It's optimized for always feeling doing only convenient stuff, and also passive consumption that is always there. When you're eating, you're watching a YouTube video. When you're going on the toilet, you're also scrolling through your TikTok or through your Instagram page. When you're doing any kind of other thing, such as commuting to your work, you're consuming something. You're always consuming something instead of actually doing that. And my last point for today is the psychological effect. Because when you're training your body to do specific movements and train them 1000 times, such as training one cut for 1,000 times until you just get it naturally. You just know how to always strike your opponent with intention. That's how you actually progress. It changes, it rewires your brain because you're getting confidence from real movement, from real progression. You're also training your physical awareness, not just your mind, not just your thoughts. You're training your mind through your own body. You're creating a real connection from body to mind and mind to body. So you're just more aware of your body movement, also of your mindfulness, right? You're also creating mindfulness through doing these inputs, like creating and repeating the same inputs that also nourish your brain. Because most digital life, so the people who are stuck online for their entire day, for their entire life also because of it. This way they are disconnecting their body from their mind. And that's why most of my peers even are stuck in front of the screens, and naturally they look fat, they're overweight, they look unhealthy because they are not aware of how are they actually looking, because they're not aware what's surrounding them right now, because they are just always stuck on watching the monitor, watching or consuming or playing their video games. It enrages me so much seeing my peers who are getting overweight. I'm sorry if some of the American folk watch this video and get angry at me. I'm sorry. Or maybe I'm not, because moving moving your body, feeling great, of course, if you're not sick, right? That's how you actually stay healthy. You're nourishing your mind through training your body. And sword fighting specifically also trains your body in a way that it looks very cool when you actually know how to wield a longsword and know how to fight with it. Sword training reconnects your brain to your body. And that's why your brain stops thinking in these abstract ideas and actually reconnects with you. It starts to think in action. It starts to think in motion of an actual sword fighter, let's say, right? And that's why the steel doesn't lie, because the sword, as I've said many countless times, the sword is just a tool. It's an extension of your own will. It's an extension of your skill, of your knowledge and your strength. And of course, swords were deadly, right? But they are not deadly because they are swords. They are deadly because you know how to use them. If you train it enough, right? Because your technique, your understanding reveals the truth about you. And your strength comes from repetition, from constant repetition. So doing the actual task that's in front of you instead of consuming content about it. So sword training becomes somewhat a metaphor for your life. You improve by practice, repetition and correction, not by discussion. And also a bonus point that I thought about right now is the offline advantage. So you being offline gives you the hidden advantage that most of the people just overlook. It gives you real community, it gives you real skill, it gives you repetition, and also it gives you real memories because you actually create them through living your own life. It's so like, do you see, like, saying this out loud, it's so abstract, but it also, like, it's so bizarre for me to say it to you, because years later you won't remember what you've scrolled through, you won't remember the videos that you've watched, but the things that you will remember years later would be your first clean strike, your first sparring session, your first win in a tournament, or your first real plateau in sword fighting training. And also you will remember the friends that you created while training with them, while sparring and fighting with them. Our modern world is increasingly virtual, which is very unfortunate. But humans evolved through living in the physical world. If you want clarity, confidence, and meaning, then you have to start living your life, making mistakes, taking corrections, right? Training it yourself, by yourself, or with someone else, taking the initiative and stealing it back. You need to leave the screen sometimes, and not even sometimes, for most of your life, which is your day-to-day life, and do something real, even if that thing is learning how to fight with a sword. And if you made it this far, join my free school community. The link's in the description or the first pinned comment. And also join my membership group of this exact YouTube channel called The Vanguard. Here's the image that my sister created, like the art for this group, which I'm very grateful for. And you should look her up on the Instagram and her coffee. I will leave the link right here for you to follow. She makes art and you can buy something from her. I really advise you do. So the thing that I also haven't said to you is that if you join my free school community right now, there is 100% chance that I will reach out to you specifically through the private messages to actually help you out with your sword fighting journey, with your longsword training by talking with you one-to-one. So go and join my free school community right there. And remember, always take the initiative.